As we took a chance, we took a risk, right? Our fifth cover, January of 2019, was somebody nobody knew, drug and alcohol problem, and wanted to talk about it. And we hadn't gone there yet, right? We did get some pushback, but he called me probably 2 weeks after the story was out, and he said, you captured me, you did such an amazing job. He said, but I got to tell you, the thing that means the most to me is the number of people who have reached out and asked for help.
Wow.
I'm like, you know what? It was worth the risk.
Yeah.
If we helped save one person because he told his story, it was worth the risk.
Welcome to Money Market, a Bank of Tampa podcast. We highlight the businesses, expert business advice, the local economy, and points of interest in the Tampa Bay market. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And make sure you share this episode with a friend or colleague. I'm your host, Owen Lafave, the Pinellas County Market President for the Bank of Tampa, Tampa Bay's oldest and largest community bank. Today's guest, she knows how to throw a good party for sure. She's a part-time event coordinator, a part-time magazine publisher, full-time connector, and possibly the only person that can make financial headlines sound fun. She is the powerhouse publisher of the Tampa Bay Business and Wealth magazine, Bridgette Bello. Thank you for joining me.
Quite the intro. Thank you.
I try. How long has TBBW been around? What now?
6.5 years now.
6.5 years.
Yeah. We'll celebrate 7 in May.
So is there a big, are you planning something for like the 10th? Hey, are you that far ahead?
No.
No?
Thank you for making me feel like a failure.
No, not at all.
Excuse me. No, we did just move into new offices.
That's exciting.
So we're talking about having a big grand opening party for the office and celebrating all the things at the same time.
Now, from a geography standpoint, I know the offices were on the Hillsborough side, and now they're over on the Pinellas side.
Actually, we've always been on the Pinellas side.
Yeah, okay.
We were just all the way down in deep in the heart of St. Pete.
Okay.
And so we are much more geographically
that probably makes sense. In
friendly
the gateway,
located now.
In the middle.
Yeah.
So, okay. For people that don't know, and I would imagine most of the people listening to this podcast, but interesting enough, we have people out of market that also listen to it. How would you explain Tampa Bay Business and Wealth?
Oh, that's my favorite topic. Tampa Bay Business and Wealth is a print, digital, and event media company that is purely targeting CEOs and doing business with CEOs and people who are business owners and running companies. So the magazine goes to 15,000 CEOs every month.
Wow.
Yeah, we're proud of that.
Yeah.
We have about 23 events that we do on an annual basis, and then we have a twice-a-week newsletter. I don't know why I've got a frog in my throat. I'm sorry.
No problem. It's the weather.
And a very robust website. We are very proud that all of our traffic has grown organically. We've not done anything to supplement it, and we'll hit 500,000 page views this year. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
So do you consider yourself a magazine or more? Because, I mean, you do so many events.
Right.
It feels like you're more like a multimedia event company than you are.
So when I said in the intro I was a digital event and print media company,
yes.
That's how we describe ourselves.
Fair enough.
It's a media company. I mean, you can't really just be print anymore.
It's hard, right? That model doesn't really work.
Yeah. No.
So thinking about the publications here in Tampa, so there's the Tampa Bay Business Journal, there's Tampa Bay Metro, which is lifestyle and wealth related, Tampa Bay Magazine, which is definitely lifestyle, I would say. What inspired you to find this intersection of business and wealth? Like, what did you see in the market?
What we saw in the market was a void. There was nobody that was really convening the CEOs and the business owners in the region and really super serving that audience. And so when we thought about who is that person, we thought they certainly want to read business news, right? And they want advice-driven content that's going to help them grow their companies. But they also want to know what the latest Rolls-Royce looks like, or the new release of Rolex, or the biggest mansion that's on the market. Because if they're a CEO, they're either building their wealth or continuing to build their wealth. Mm-hmm. And so nobody wants to just read a business magazine, right?
Yeah,
but if you've got a good mixture of business and lifestyle, that's something that people can sink their teeth into.
Okay. So your career path, did you always want to be in journalism and in publishing, or where was the seed planted?
Yeah. So my mom's favorite story to tell is that my very first thing to ever be published, I was 6 years old. I wrote a story as if I was a raindrop, and my parents' client owned I think it was a water softener company or something, and they used my story of being the raindrop all the way back to when I was 6 years old. But I have always been on that journalism First Amendment track. I was editor of my college newspaper. I went to school for journalism.
Which school?
University of Florida, go Gators.
All right.
Yeah, and so it has kind of always been in my blood, and I started out on the actual reporting side of it and then figured out it's pretty difficult to make actual money doing that. And ended up going up through the business side and then ultimately being over both of those, both the editorial and the business side.
All right. And I know you spent a little bit of time in radio.
I did.
Advertising, right?
Yes.
So how'd you get there? And then how'd you find your way back to publishing?
The first 10 years of my career were in radio. So when he was telling me to eat the mic, I'm like, I know how to do that. I thought broadcast news was what I wanted to do. And so I was actually the morning news girl for KISS 105 in Gainesville.
All right.
Way back in the early 90s. And my on-air name was Heather Fox.
Heather Fox.
Yes.
How did you come up with that name?
I didn't. They gave it to me.
They gave it to you?
Yeah.
Did you have a choice? Or we don't like your name? Well, I guess everybody had an alias.
Everybody had an alias back then. Yeah. And people were creepy. And of course, now you can find anybody anywhere. So there's no point in having an alias. But I had to be there at 4:30 in the morning to do the morning news. And so my running joke is if I'm up at 4:30, it's because I'm still up, because I'm not 4:30 in the morning girl. And I love telling the story. And if it's too long, I'm sorry.
But tell the story.
The station manager, who is still one of, I think, if not the only, one of the only single station owners left in the country. He's not a part of a conglomerate. He came and got me out of the broadcast booth one day at the end of my shift and kind of put his arm around me. And I was like, okay, here we go. I'm getting fired. Right?
What'd I do?
And he took me out to the parking lot and he pointed at a Pinto, which I don't know how old your listeners are. Some may not know what that is, but basically they used to explode on impact.
Right. Yeah. You get rear-ended, they blow up.
Yeah. And he said, that is the car that my highest paid on-air personality drives. And then he pointed at a BMW on the other side of the parking lot. And he said, that is the car that my highest paid salesperson drives. What car do you want to drive?
Interesting. All right. Well, that was an easy pick.
Yeah. So he saw something in me and switched me over to the business side. I ended up selling radio for about 10 years. When I left radio, again, the story is long, but I'm old. It was because I was going to a big girl job. I was 29. I had a 3-year-old daughter, and I was supposed to be in 1999 making $300,000 a year, which you could put that into perspective.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah. It was great.
It was big money.
Yeah.
The guy that hired me got fired a month after I quit my job, and they decided not to honor the contract that he had signed with me. And so I found myself without a job.
Okay.
I had a 6-month non-compete in radio and ended up interviewing for the ad director position at the Business Journal in Jacksonville at the time. Got offered the job and thought, okay, I'll sit out my 6-month non-compete and then I'll go back to radio. And it ended up being a 20-year career.
Any regret?
None.
No.
Absolutely not. No. I'm not somebody that believes in regret anyway. I kind of feel like all the steps that we take, whether they were the right ones or not, got us to where we are. And I'm really happy with where I am. So I don't regret any of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the world is evolving and changing with social media. And you had mentioned, being a digital media company. Like in today's environment, how do you value success? Like what metrics do you look at to say like, okay, we're doing what we need to do? Is it just clicks?
Personal success or business?
No, start like business and then we'll talk personal.
Yeah, it's not just clicks though. I mean, we don't write headlines for clicks. We refuse to participate in the bad news. Really, if it bleeds, it leads. That's not us. We are very proud to be at 500,000 page views with that being 100% organic.
That philosophy is intentional because everybody goes to like the bleeds, it leads, right? You have this crazy clickbait and you get sucked in and you're like, okay, this is not as represented.
And then it's like crack.
Yeah.
Right? You can't get away from it.
Sometimes you go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, absolutely. And so, we're very intentional about choosing not to be a part of that. All of our events sell out. That's a wonderful metric for us. Even the events that we don't sell tickets to are always packed. The number one question I get asked is, how do I get on your invite list? And so I think so
there's a waiting list.
There kind of is, yeah. Lots of adding staff. We've grown our revenue 20-25% every year since we started.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah. So lots of little success metrics.
All right. So you mentioned personal. How do you value personal success?
It's changed a lot the older I get. It used to be about the cars and the house and the diamonds and the Rolexes. And these days it's about, I have my first granddaughter on the way.
Yeah. Congratulations.
It's about family and are we all together? And I mean, we still fight, obviously, and
That's
get mad at each other.
Family.
Yeah, it is family, but it's a lot less about stuff and a lot more about family and the growth of the family and the happiness of the family.
No, I love that. So, I mean, how do you then approach family and keeping that family together? I know that's a challenge for a lot of us.
Yeah. I don't know that you should have me talk about that. I'm not sure I'm the best person to talk about that. I try. I do my best. When we're together, I try to be incredibly present. We're blessed that all three of our grown children are successful, but it means one lives in Jacksonville, one lives in Orlando, and one lives in Birmingham but flies all over the world. He's an Air Force pilot, and so he just got back from deployment yesterday morning. And
Wow.
So being present when we have the opportunity to be with them, I think is the best way to answer that question, and to just, we send them something every day, whether it's a Bible verse or a, good morning, or, just trying to stay connected.
Just trying to stay connected.
Yeah.
So running a media company, when you're together, how do you unplug?
Myself and my husband?
Yeah.
We don't.
Okay.
We have two little dogs that are our new children, basically, that they're kind of what makes us go home every day.
What kind of dogs?
Well, one is a purebred Yorkie. The other one is a rescue. She's absolutely insane. We think she's mixed with a Havanese, but we have not done a DNA test or anything. So she's not quite the purebred that he is. But, playing with the dogs, spending time with our kids or doing things for our kids, planning vacations, talking about what's next, having things to look forward to.
Sure.
But we both sit and work across from each other every night and apologize to each other for it and realize that we're both doing it. And so, it's not one of us checking out on the other one. It's both of us. And we're both trying to build a business, and we're both respectful of that.
Yeah, no, it's very similar dynamic in our household.
Yeah.
So
kind of has to be these days, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it never really shuts off.
No.
And that's okay. I mean, as long as at some point in time you have boundaries, and I think it both is, if everyone is in agreement on what those are and when those are and what the cues are to say, like, hey, I need you to focus here for a minute. Yeah.
Put the phone down.
Yeah.
Make eye contact. Yeah.
Yeah. So with so many different things going on in the market, how do you decide what stories to publish?
We touched on it a little bit. I mean, the mission of the magazine remains and has always been to be a positive part of economic development in this region. And so if there's somebody who is growing a company or doing amazing things that are having a regional impact, we're always going to go towards those, right? We don't want to write about the companies that are leaving. We don't want to write about the companies that are laying people off.
Yeah.
We want to write about the companies that are making this an amazing place to live and work and play. And the region has changed so much in the last 6.5 years, just with, you look at Water Street.
Sure has, yeah.
It's almost like unrecognizable to those of us who were here before. But being a part of that fire and watching Tampa Bay kind of come into its own. And, one of the head of commercial real estate for Water Street, he's not there anymore, so I won't say his name. When he met me, he said, "Oh my God, your magazine is what I take with me on recruiting trips." He said, "You're the only ones that are really telling the stories of what's happening here." And I was like, "Can you say
Tremendous
that again?
compliment,
Can I
right,
record that?" Right. But it was like,
Put that on the website.
You said, what's success? That was success. That was, okay, we nailed it. We're doing it, right? That's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. And I'm amazed at how many unique people there are in the community. And I love the fact that you're able to highlight them, because more often than not, like I see one of the CEOs and the companies you're highlighting, and I'm in banking. And so it's my job to know these companies. And every so often there's one I'm like, I had no idea who this person was and what kind of company they had.
Then I call that success as well, because that's what we're trying to do. We don't want to write the stories about the people that everyone knows. My running joke, as wonderful as Jeff Bennick is other than what he had for breakfast this morning, what is there really to write about him, right?
Everybody knows.
So we are very intentional about finding the stories that haven't been told about the people that are running amazing companies, employing hundreds of people in the region, thousands in some cases, certainly injecting millions of dollars into our economy, local economy, and people just don't know they're here. They're doing it quietly.
Right.
I love that.
Well, we know Jeff Finnick, but we don't know the new owners. So maybe
correct.
Maybe get them on at some point.
You're going to help me with that, right?
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Okay.
So what would you say is the most memorable person you've highlighted or story?
Oh, wow. They're all so memorable for so many different reasons.
You got to pick one. There's a favorite. There's a memorable.
Well, there's not a favorite, but there is a standout because we took a chance. We took a risk, right? Our fifth cover, January of 2019, was somebody nobody knew. Amazing story, drug and alcohol problem, and wanted to talk about it. And we hadn't gone there yet, right? We were really excited about the rawness of all the stories that we were telling and the realness that we were getting out of people. But that one, we were like, this is brave, right? This is a risk. And we did it. We did get some pushback. But he called me probably 2 weeks after the story was out. And he said, my friends and family are so impressed with the story that you told. You captured me. You did such an amazing job. He said, but I got to tell you, the thing that means the most to me is the number of people who have reached out and asked for help.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. He made an impact.
I'm like, you know what? It was worth the risk.
Yeah.
If we helped save one person because he told his story, it was worth the risk.
Well, so Gary Hartfield was in here, and one of the conversations we got into was redemption.
Yeah.
And I think people love a good redemption story. It's sad we live in a society today that everybody's so quick to tear somebody down.
Yep.
But in the same token, if someone is able to take some hardship they've had and turn that around into a success and build a successful business and share that story, I mean, we all go through crap, right?
Of course we do.
We all have challenges.
No, it's all sunshine and butterflies.
All of us.
All of us, yeah.
All the time. But no, to be able to, share that story, I mean, that's, and you provide that venue on a scale, I mean, 15,000 CEOs, I mean, that's, it has to be rewarding.
It's incredibly rewarding. It's my favorite topic.
So outside of that person, is there another person or two that you would say is the most inspiring that you've covered?
Yeah. Again, it's very difficult to pick one. Carrie Charles is another standout story. She was December of 21, I think. Okay. Definitely December.
I'm impressed that you're able to have that recall.
Give me a couple more years and I won't. But it's still so, my baby. She was another very brave story. There wasn't a social issue that she didn't talk about, from being molested by her father all the way up to being court-martialed in the military and like kind of everything in between. Yeah. Being deciding that she wanted to be gay and for a little while and then not. And so it was another really risky, really brave, like, okay, she's naked basically at that point. Very inspiring. She's running a $30 billion company now. Yeah. She's beautiful. She's just one of the kindest people that you'll ever meet, but she's been through it.
The feedback you get, is it in those situations, because I can see how they're polarizing. Yeah. Do you get the negative side of that too, or is that really, is that not showing its face?
No, not really. We had one advertiser who gave us a hard time at one point that we've gotten past. But no, we don't get a lot of negative. We've had, there's been, I remember the first cover where somebody called us and said really bad things about him. Oh. It's really only happened once. Okay. There was one where somebody's family members started trying to go after him for money. That was bad. Yeah. And then there was one where a person didn't recognize their daughter in the story for whatever reason. I don't know. She felt compelled to call me and tell me that she existed. So, but that's three things, and that's probably the only three things I can tell you that have been negative in almost 7 years.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of think if somebody doesn't like you enough to call a magazine and say that was a mistake to put him on the cover, you're written space in their head, right? That takes a lot of effort. So you're clearly memorable for a reason.
Yes, it does. Well, I don't know. If you look out there on social media, this is people's full-time job sometime.
People are going to be trying to figure out now. They're going to be looking like, which cover is she talking about?
Probably.
Probably.
Well, speaking of that, on the website, did you have the passage episodes? So someone... Issues.
That's another thing that we were very intentional about, right? Is if you think about what journalism is for, right? And what the true meaning behind why it exists, it's the dissemination of information, right? It's to hold people accountable. I feel very strongly that a person shouldn't have to pay for that information. And so every article that we've ever published is available for free online on our website. Wow. And always will be.
Amazing. So what about I mean, that takes a lot of space. So
how do we pay the bills?
Well, no, but I was going, I mean, just in terms of innovation, as the world evolves, like how does TBBW embrace that? Like, what are you doing differently? How are you evolving?
We just talked about one of the things. I think refusing to be a part of the negativity is another pretty innovative thing in the media today.
Yeah, it's shockingly, I guess it is, right?
Yeah. Not charging for good news dissemination, whether that be a new CEO coming to town or you get a great rock star on your team or you win an award or you're doing something amazing. The events used to be an innovative thing, and then the digital became an innovative thing. And podcasts we're finally, you saw my wall, my grow wall.
Yeah.
That's our podcast wall. So we are talking about finally having a podcast, which we've been talking about for years.
Oh, I love it. It would fit perfectly in with everything else you're doing.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to come teach us how.
I've got a good team.
Yeah, it looks like it. So, just making sure that we remain relevant and whatever that looks like. And I don't necessarily know what it looks like. I mean, we're looking at other markets potentially, growing to, a Central Florida business and wealth, North Florida business and wealth, those kinds of things. So
now, as you go into those markets, are you looking to partner with someone? Or are you looking to physically go? Like, what does that build out?
We would need to find a Bridget and Jason in each of those markets, somebody that is willing to work 24 hours a day, basically 7 days a week.
Right. Yeah. No, you're tireless.
Yeah. Well, and you have to be in any business that you're starting, right? But really somebody that has an amazing reputation, has great relationships, is ethical, and is somebody that people trust. And so, we need those people in those markets before we can open those new markets. So that's what's...
Are you actively searching so someone may hear this and say, I want to be Bridget and Jason?
We might possibly, yes, we might be searching in 2025.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on the horizon for 2025? Anything new?
Hopefully I get to move out of the RV.
I do want to get into insurance here in a little bit.
Oh, are we going to talk about insurance? Okay. I'm going to have a new granddaughter in 2025. Yeah. Very excited about that. Hopefully that part of our family is going to move closer because, when you have babies, all of a sudden mommy becomes important, right?
Absolutely.
We need free babysitters and all the things.
Babysitters you can trust.
Yeah, babysitters you can trust. And potentially an additional market. We're looking at some, I keep using the word intentional, and I hate to use the same word over and over again, but we've also been very intentional about the events that we've chosen to bring to the market, in that there isn't a reason to do another of anything, right? Okay. We've got enough events in this town to go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day at an event. Yes. And so Philanthropist of the Year, no one else does anything like that, recognizing companies and people who give back in really big ways. We felt like that was something that was worth doing. Mm-hmm. The Apogee Awards, where we recognize the entire C-suite all in one night. So it's not piecemealed things. It's all in one night. You've got chief marketing, chief financial, chief legal, chief human resource, chief executive, chief operating. I mean, there's 9 different categories. I'm
embarrassed because I remember when it first came out, and I'm like, what the heck is an apogee?
Don't be embarrassed.
And I looked it up, and so I'm like, it all makes sense, but I don't remember what it is. So
we even have finalists that are like, what does this mean? We feel like we should do a blooper reel about it and just
So what does the term mean?
Well, what does it?
Yeah, what does it mean?
It is, it's the highest point in the orbit.
Okay.
You can't get any higher than that, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So what other events?
The Women Who Win. Mm-hmm. Super, super successful event. We're taking nominations for that now.
Okay.
Your wife is a previous winner, yes. And it's the thing I'm the proudest of. And so we're looking at, are there any other intentional events that there's a void? And so we may see some of that in 2025.
Well, it's exciting.
Yeah.
So covering the market like you do, I mean, what industries do you see are the most promising in Tampa Bay?
It's funny how much that has changed since I've been here.
Yeah, it's evolved, hasn't it?
It has, and I think we should be super proud of that. I remember, so I moved here in 2007, and I moved here in a high-profile position, obviously, and got to sit in all the dark, smoky rooms, as they say. I remember when we would talk about the West Coast, meaning the West Coast of the country, talks about entrepreneurship, and they have entrepreneurship programs in their colleges. And We don't do that here.
Yeah.
Right? That wasn't that long ago.
That was a thing, yeah.
It was a thing.
No entrepreneurship. There's no capital. Yeah, we don't do capital here.
We don't have technology, right?
Yeah. We're all call centers.
How can we be the next
tourism
Austin?
Call centers. Yeah.
We're tourism and call centers. So we've come a long way, baby.
We have.
It's
We've
very
diversified.
cool to see, the diversification. I mean, certainly still healthcare is big here. Technology has become a force, definitely, in this town. I do think we are the next Austin, except we're going to do it better. My sister's flying in from Austin today, so if she hears this, she'll be mad at me. That's where she lives. But commercial real estate and residential real estate, I think, will always continue to be a big part of the fabric here.
Mm-hmm.
These last 2 hurricanes may have had a small impact on that. That remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Banking,
I think if we get a couple of
obviously.
years without, we'll rebound. But
From your lips to God's ears.
Yeah, yes. We'll keep it away.
That's right. Keep them away. The Indian burial grounds failed us this time.
Yeah, they did, finally.
Yeah, they finally did.
So what would you say is unique about Tampa? I mean, how do we stand out nationally?
I think what is unique about Tampa is that we are the most authentic place I think I have ever been. I absolutely love the people here. I think we are so welcoming, a very genuinely kind community that wants to help each other. I hear that when people move here. Like, I had one lady say, she goes, "Okay, when's the other shoe going to drop?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Everyone's so nice. Like, this can't be what it," and I'm like, "No, this is what it is. Like, and don't tell anyone else because we don't want them to move here."
Yeah, we do. We need that growth.
Yes, we don't want them to move here. But I just think that we are the most authentic city in the nation and have the kindest, most supportive business community and people anywhere.
I agree. Now, this is a very welcoming community, and I forget the quote, but it's like, most places like put their hand out to shake you, like, Tampa Bay puts their arms around and gives you a hug.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I have never heard that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I wish I could attribute it to somebody, but it's not mine, so don't say Owen said it. What about untapped opportunities? I mean, do you see any area that we could improve upon that we're just not serving?
You do want to talk about insurance, right?
We're going. That's my next question.
Yeah, I think that there's some real opportunity with insurance in this state, particularly in the flood space.
Well, tell us about that. So let's roll up our sleeves on that one, because you've been very outspoken, and understandably so, because you were dramatically impacted, and like so many other friends and customers, and it is heartbreaking. We have a little bit of like survivor's guilt.
Sure.
Where, we live on the water, and it came up to the house, but didn't come in and see, everything our friends are going through. So, I'm sorry.
Thank you. This community, again, has been incredible. I mean, the support that we've received, the help that we've received, the people that have shown up for us. You said something about me being so outspoken about it because I was so impacted. But really the reason that I've been trying to be outspoken about it is because I can't get the people out of my mind that are not me. The people who don't have the network that I have, the people who can't pick up the phone or who don't have people showing up at their house and helping them clean, who don't understand the complexities that, it's literally a full-time job.
Yeah.
It is literally a second full-time job. The administrative portion of applying for FEMA, the hoops they make you jump through, the hoops that your insurance makes you jump through, both flood and homeowners, applying for an SBA disaster loan, the hoops that they make you jump through. That I finally said on the phone the other day, I said, I think your strategy is to wear me down. And that probably works with 85% of the population. It's not going to work with me. You're not going to wear me down. So let's just stop doing the whole withdraw my application thing and tell me to go away, because I'm not. So it's
Did that work?
Well, yes, actually, it's back under review.
Okay,
So,
all right.
I will say the squeaky wheel thing, I think, is a strategy for those of us who were impacted. I think the squeakier we are, the more we're going to get done. I think we need to continue to reach out to our senators and our representatives, state representatives. They do work for us, and they need to work for us. Everyone keeps saying, "You back in the house yet?" And they don't mean it to be anything other than like conversation, right? But no, like the house looks the day it did the day after Helene and the day before Milton, right? Pinellas County isn't issuing permits. And so something needs to be done about that. And I think about my neighbor, my little 82-year-old neighbor who can't pick up the phone and call the people that I can pick up the phone and call, who's helping them,
Right.
you know? And so that's why I've been so vocal about it. I really feel like that this is something that we can change and that we should change in my lifetime. It's, you know, it's the third hurricane that we've dealt with, which people would say, why do you still live there? So I do have to explain that if you'll give me time. The first impact was Irma in 2017,
Right.
and it had absolutely nothing to do with Irma. It was a tornado. It could have happened at your house. It could have happened in Lutz. It could have happened anywhere, right?
Yeah, in Iowa, right?
At Iowa, yeah, not even Florida, absolutely. And so this is the first time that the neighborhood that I live in, that has been there since 1970, so almost 55 years, has ever flooded. So for people to do the whole, oh, it's the price for paradise, and you know, you knew what you were getting yourself into living on the water, and those kind of comments that, quite frankly, make me want to punch people.
But there are areas in the community that aren't in the floodplain that
Lots.
yes, that flooded. Yeah, and
lots
those people,
of them.
gosh, and a lot of them don't have means, but they had no flood insurance for sure because they weren't on the water, weren't in a flood zone.
Well, something else that's wrong with our system, since you asked, is that the people who didn't have flood insurance are the people who are getting help from FEMA. Those of us who did have flood insurance are like, oh, you have flood insurance. Well, guess what? Flood insurance has major caps.
Yeah, you only can get $250,000.
You can only get $250,000. And so can you repair your house for $250,000? And in my case, we said we put up our hurricane shutters. We had hurricane insurance. We had homeowners insurance. We had flood insurance. We did everything right.
Right.
And we still lost our house.
Right.
So why does FEMA help somebody that didn't do everything right? And how am I going to feel next year when they send me my renewal for my flood insurance? Like, well, I'd get more help from FEMA if I didn't have flood insurance. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
So I could keep going on and on and on about the things that are wrong.
What about what's being done about the permitting process? I mean, what's the feedback you're getting there?
They say that it's opening up. So there's been this whole, and this is a Pinellas County thing, I believe. I don't know. You may know differently.
No, Hillsboro's moving a lot faster, I know.
Yeah. So there are these letters that are called substantial damage letters.
Yes.
That you cannot even begin to work on your home until you receive. Mm-hmm. The only way you can receive them is through the United States Postal Service, which, as we all know, is the most reliable form.
Rain, sleet, or snow, right?
Right? So we'll go back to September 26th is when, the date of impact. I just got my substantial damage letter last Saturday, 3 months.
Wow.
And until you have your substantial damage letter, you cannot apply for a permit. And so now we can apply because we have our letter. But you go back to, again, I have the ability to live in an RV in my driveway. What about somebody who can't afford to do that?
Right.
What about somebody who has no place to go for the last 3 months that hasn't even been able to start work on their homes? There is so much wrong with the system.
Thank you for sharing everything on insurance. I know it's been a challenge for you and a lot of others, and thank you for carrying the torch on that. And before we wrap up, I want to pivot back to one more thing. As people's interests are changing and really just have different interests. I mean, a lot of people like long form content, feels like it's coming back. How does TBW adapt to people's changing interests and just various interests?
It's a great question. I don't know that I have a great answer. I can, I've always laughed because when we started the magazine in 2018, a lot of people who had known me for a really long time were like, psst, has no one told you print's dead, right? Right. Are you crazy? You're launching a magazine in 2018. And I always think back to when I was in college in the early 90s, they told us print was dead. Print's still not dead.
No,
and it's 2024.
Radio was supposed to die. And
right, everything's supposed to die.
Right.
Yeah. When people get on an airplane and there's no Wi-Fi, they're really glad they have a magazine in their bag,
yes.
Right? And so I think a big part of it is paying attention to trends, staying educated. We talked about earlier, staying relevant, right? Doing the shorter form stuff online for the digital product, the longer form stuff in the magazine for the print product. The little snippets of information at the events that we do, the fireside chats. So we try to give it in so many different formats that there's something for everybody. if you don't want to read the magazine, you don't have to, right? Read the digital edition or the newsletter. And
Come to an event.
And I think we give people too much credit, right? Like, oh, well, everyone wants it to be 140 words or 140 characters or less, right? Where'd that go?
Right.
How easy was it for us to communicate anything in 140 characters? It was terrible.
It was terrible.
So I think people don't necessarily know what they want either. And so I think if you're giving it to them in a lot of different ways and a lot of different formats that they can change or choose based on where they are in their life at that moment, then that's
right. Sometimes it depends on the mood. Like sometimes I love to dig into long form content, and sometimes I'm like, okay, give me bite-sized pieces. I don't want to dig in. I don't have the mental space right now.
Absolutely.
All right. If people want to find you, Bridget, how can they reach out to you?
Oh, goodness. I'm very easy to find, unfortunately or fortunately. Our website is tbbwmag.com. My email address is bbello@tbbwmag.com. And we love to hear from people. We get some of the best cover suggestions come from other people, other covers, advertisers. Finding those off the radar people isn't easy because they're off the radar, right? And so we love to hear from the community what they would like to see us cover more of, less of. Somebody told me my publisher's letter's too long one time. Everyone's got an opinion when you're in the public eye, right?
You know the saying about opinions.
I do.
But Bridget wants to hear from you, so reach out to Bridget, give her your ideas,
Absolutely.
and thanks for coming on Money Market.
Thanks for having me.
If you have a question or future show idea or would like to be a sponsor, you can send us a message at moneymarket@bankoftampa.com or find us on LinkedIn, X, Facebook, and on Instagram at Bank of Tampa and online at bankoftampa.com. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you around in the Money Market.